What if the question we have been asking for centuries is already wrong? What if the universe did not begin with us, or even for us? And what if the very fabric around us carries the bruises of an age we never witnessed? When we stare at the great silence of the night sky, why does it sometimes feel less like emptiness and more like a whisper, like someone or something left a trace here before we arrived? Could it be that our cosmos isn't the first universe, but merely the latest in a long lineage of worlds, and that the one before ours never fully disappeared? And if it hasn't, what exactly is leaking into the reality we call home? Imagine drifting through a void so ancient that even time has forgotten how to count it. Imagine the last breath of a universe collapsing in on itself, not in violence, but in a sigh. One last contraction before all its stars extinguish and all its structures fold into a singular moment of unimaginable density. Now, imagine that moment is not death, but transition, a corridor between one cosmos and the next, where remnants of the old do not fully vanish, but dissolve into a kind of invisible ink. Our universe may be the page written with that ink, still faintly stained by the past. The cosmic microwave background, that soft wallpaper of radiation stretching across the whole sky, is supposed to be the clean fossil of our beginning, but nothing about it is entirely clean. Hidden inside its noise are strange circular bruises, massive imprints too symmetrical, too deliberate to be random. Some believe these are scars, leftover impacts from colossal collisions in an era before ours. But collisions between what? Between universes? Between cosmic civilizations older than physics itself? Or between the dying fragments of a world that refused to collapse quietly? These possibilities do more than challenge us. They unsettle us. They force us to imagine that our universe rose not from emptiness, but from a graveyard. And like any good graveyard, it carries secrets in the soil. But the most haunting question is this: what does it mean for universes to leak? Not explode, not collide, not vanish, but leak. Leaking is slow. Leaking is subtle. It is the kind of phenomenon that goes unnoticed until suddenly it can no longer be ignored. A tear in a vessel. A crack in a wall. A whisper from a room we thought was sealed. If another universe is leaking into ours, it means boundaries are thinner than we believed. It means reality is not a fortress, it is a membrane. Scientifically, the idea is strange, but not impossible. Some cosmological models describe the fabric of reality as a vast sea of universes, an endlessly bubbling foam where each cosmos is a bubble in constant flux. If an older bubble drifted too close to ours, or if its collapse left behind pockets of compressed information, those pockets might seep into our universe, like dye bleeding into water, faint distortions, strange radiation signatures, patterns that resemble memories more than natural laws. The universe has always been full of anomalies, but anomalies become different when you stop seeing them as errors and start seeing them as confessions. Consider dark matter, this invisible substance that outweighs everything we can see. Perhaps it is not from here at all. Perhaps it is not a substance, but a fingerprint, a remnant of structures that formed before our universe learned how to exist. And what about dark energy, the mysterious force accelerating cosmic expansion? Could it be the leftover push from a past universe still echoing through the void, like an exhale that never fully stopped? Every mystery we have accepted in modern cosmology could be an inheritance we never questioned. Now imagine the Big Bang not as a beginning, but as a rebound, a bounce from a universe collapsing into itself, compressing its history into a singularity before exploding outward again. If this is true, our universe is not a child, it is a reincarnation. It carries traits from its previous life. It remembers silently everything that came before. But memory in a universe is not like memory in a human brain. It does not take the form of thoughts or images. It takes the form of laws, constants, ratios, patterns so precise that physicists call them fine-tuned. Gravity is weaker than electromagnetism by a number so unbelievably specific it defies randomness. The mass of the electron balances perfectly with the forces holding atoms together. Why? What if these constants weren't chosen for us? What if they were inherited, echoes of the physics that governed the universe before ours? We treat these numbers as laws, but what if they are scars? And if the universe contains scars, what does that make us? Every atom in our bodies comes from stars that died billions of years ago, But what if some of those atoms carry signatures from stars that existed before the Big Bang? What if the elements inside us are older than time, as we define it? Consider consciousness for a moment, not as a product of biology, but as a resonance, something that emerges when matter reaches a certain level of complexity. If matter itself carries ancient imprints, could consciousness be influenced by a history deeper than our universe? Could the strange flashes of intuition we experience, the moments of déjà vu that feel older than memory, be the faintest echoes of a world long erased? It sounds poetic, even mystical, and yet the line between deep physics and deep intuition often blurs when we walk too close to the origins of existence. Now, imagine a universe older than ours, still brushing against our reality. Imagine two cosmic membranes drifting together in the darkness, their surfaces rippling as they touch. The contact is brief, but the consequences echo for billions of years. The pressure zones where they meet form distortions, circles, ripples, low-temperature regions, imprints that we now observe without understanding. To us, they look like data irregularities, but to a universe, they are bruises. And what if the leak isn't just structural? What if information itself can pass through? Not objects, not matter, but information, patterns, laws, residual energies that influence the behavior of particles in ways we cannot fully predict. What if quantum anomalies, those bizarre, unpredictable events that defy classical physics, are hints of rules imported from an older cosmos? Quantum physics has always felt like a language we only half understand. What if that's because part of it isn't ours? The more we learn about the universe, the more it feels like a palimpsest, a manuscript written, erased, and rewritten across eons. Beneath our cosmic story lies an older story, faint but persistent, like ink that refuses to fade. And no matter how deeply we probe, some part of that older story keeps resurfacing. Maybe every universe leaves behind residue, the way ancient civilizations leave behind ruined foundations beneath modern cities. The deeper you dig, the more layers you uncover. Perhaps physicists aren't uncovering mysteries, they are uncovering ruins. Imagine standing in a vast desert and feeling the ground vibrate with something moving deep below. You cannot see it, but you know it's there. That is what the universe feels like sometimes. Quiet on the surface, but trembling with hidden architecture underneath. If an older universe is leaking into ours, then we are living not in isolation, but in inheritance. Our cosmos may be shaped by a gravitational memory from a time before time. Our stars may burn with chemistry inherited from a physics older than physics. Our consciousness may rise from patterns that once belonged to a cosmos now gone. And yet nothing about this should make us feel small. If anything, it makes us vast. It means we are not just observers of the universe. We are participants in a cosmic lineage, woven into a tapestry that stretches beyond our universe's birth. We are made not only of stardust, but of cosmic ancestry. Perhaps the universe does not begin or end. Perhaps it cycles, breathing in and out, collapsing and expanding across eternities. And each cycle leaves behind traces, like a story told again and again, each retelling carrying echoes of the one before. If so, then we live in a universe that is both newborn and ancient, a universe that remembers. And now comes the most profound question of all. If our universe is receiving leaks from an older cosmos, what will leak from ours into the next? What will survive our ending? What patterns, what laws, what memories will pass forward into realities we will never witness? A universe leaking into ours is not just a theory. It is a mirror held up to existence, asking us to reconsider everything. Our origins, our meaning, our place in an endless chain of creation. And so, we begin our journey with a single truth whispered across the silence. Our universe may not be alone, may never have been alone, and may carry inside it the fading heartbeat of a cosmos long gone, but not forgotten. Are you ready to follow those whispers deeper? If the universe carries memories of an age before our own, then the question becomes, how do we learn to read them? How do we listen to the faintest tremors of a cosmic history that hides behind numbers, behind radiation, behind the deep silence that stretches between galaxies? When we stare into the dark, are we witnessing emptiness or the shadow of something older pressing against the thin membrane of our reality? And if the older universe is whispering through the cracks, what exactly is it trying to say? To begin unraveling this mystery, we must first understand a strange truth. the universe is louder than it appears. Every particle vibrates with information. Every photon carries the memory of where it has been. Every region of empty space is buzzing with energy, and beneath this tapestry of noise and motion, there may be a deeper signal, a signature that does not originate from our universe at all, like a faint melody woven into static, waiting for the right ear to discern it. Scientists searching for the oldest signals in existence often speak of primordial fingerprints, patterns etched into the very geometry of space-time long before stars were born. These patterns exist not in matter, but in the way matter moves, in the way gravity bends, in the way the universe expands, and sometimes in anomalies that contradict everything our laws predict. Consider the accelerating expansion of the universe. For decades, scientists expected that gravity, the pull of every star, every planet, every atom, would slow expansion over time. But instead, the universe began expanding faster, as though pushed by a force that came out of nowhere. They named this force dark energy, but the name means nothing. It is a placeholder for our confusion. What if this acceleration is not a property of our universe, but the lingering push of a collapse from the universe before ours? As if the previous cosmos exhaled its final breath, and that breath still echoes across ours? If so, then the expansion of our universe is not just a consequence of physics. It is a continuation of a story that began before our time. But the most striking evidence may lie deeper, in the quantum world, where reality behaves like a riddle. At quantum scales, particles flicker into existence, vanish, and reappear. They jump between states without crossing the space in between. They communicate across distances faster than light, entangled in ways that defy logic. Some scientists believe these quantum anomalies are hints of information bleeding from another reality, like interference patterns from dimensions we cannot perceive. If the older universe had different quantum rules, or different structures of space and time, then fragments of those structures might still echo in the behavior of particles today. Imagine two realities layered on top of each other. Our universe is the visible one, structured by the laws we understand. The older universe is the invisible layer beneath it, carrying shadows of its former geometry. Where the layers overlap, the laws blur. Quantum anomalies could be the spots where the boundary is thin, where our universe brushes against an older one, and its rules begin to shimmer and deform. And what about black holes? These cosmic abysses are the most extreme objects in existence, places where matter collapses into a point so dense that even light cannot escape. Some theories suggest black holes may act as portals, gateways, or funnels connecting different universes. If that is true, then inside each black hole could be a bridge to the universe that came before ours, or the universe that will follow. Perhaps when a black hole forms, it does not simply swallow matter. Perhaps it funnels matter into a new universe entirely, giving birth to a new reality from the ashes of a dying star. Could our own universe have been born inside a black hole of the previous one? If so, then the older universe is not leaking into ours. It is our parent. And the gravitational anomalies we observe, the inexplicable mass of the cosmos, the fine-tuned constants that make life possible, may all be artifacts of the cosmic environment in which we were gestated. Imagine a universe cradled inside the heart of a collapsing star, inheriting its spin, its mass distribution, its geometry. We may never know exactly what happened, but the signature of such an event could still be alive in the physics we measure today. Now, consider the cosmic voids, vast empty regions of space spanning hundreds of millions of light years. They are unusually empty. Too empty. As though something once occupied them and then was erased. Some researchers speculate these voids may be the regions where another universe pressed against ours during its formation, pushing matter outward and leaving behind enormous scars of emptiness. If two universes touched, even briefly, the pressure of that contact could create voids or distortions we still see today. But the most haunting thought is this. What if some regions of our universe still carry the structure of the old one? What if certain physical laws vary slightly in different parts of the cosmos because they are remnants of regions governed by older rules? We have already detected variations in the fine structure constant, a number that controls how particles interact. If that number differs across space, even slightly, then the laws of physics may not be uniform across the universe. And if they are not uniform, then what is causing the patches? Could these be pockets of old physics leaking through from the previous universe? Imagine drifting through the universe in a spacecraft, crossing from one region of space into another, and discovering that the strength of gravity shifts ever so slightly, that particles behave differently, that atoms vibrate with a different rhythm. You would be crossing a boundary, not between galaxies, but between universes, between epochs, between realities whose remnants coexist in a single cosmic canvas. And what about life? What about consciousness? If matter is inherited from an older universe, could the potential for consciousness also be inherited? Could the universe itself be predisposed to generate minds because the previous universe already learned how to create them? Perhaps consciousness did not emerge randomly. Perhaps it is an echo, a pattern reinforced across cosmic cycles until it became inevitable. Minds may be the universe remembering itself. Living beings may be the means by which the cosmos reawakens fragments of its forgotten past. Imagine a universe so ancient that consciousness evolved countless times within it. Imagine that some of those patterns were not erased in the transition to our cosmos, but encoded into the fabric of matter itself. Perhaps the reason we can think, imagine, dream, and question is because the universe has done this before. Perhaps intelligence is not an accident. It is a legacy. But if that is true, it raises a profoundly unsettling possibility. If the older universe had structures of mind or information woven into it, could traces of that information still exist around us? Could consciousness itself be sensitive to the faint echoes of older realities? When we experience intuition, creativity, or moments of inexplicable awareness, could we be brushing against ancient residues of thought? Patterns that survived the rebirth of the cosmos? It is impossible to know, but the idea lingers like a whisper. As we attempt to understand the origins of our universe, we must accept that the evidence of a pre-existing cosmos will never be clean or complete. It will always be fragmented, distorted by the violence of collapse and birth. We are detectives in a mystery where the crime scene has been erased and rewritten, yet clues remain, hidden in radiation, in gravity, in quantum fluctuations, and perhaps even in the quiet corners of human awareness. If the universe is leaking, then it is leaking in ways both subtle and profound. It leaks in the behavior of particles, in the shifting of constants, in the anomalies we dismiss as errors, in the quiet tremble of cosmic background radiation, in the deep voids between galaxies, and maybe, just maybe, in the inner silence of our own minds. The more we learn, the more impossible it becomes to say where our universe truly begins and where the older one truly ends. The boundaries blur, the stories intertwine. We are living inside a cosmic echo chamber, where each universe leaves behind faint traces that shape the next. Perhaps reality is not a chain of separate universes, but an unbroken river, flowing from one existence to the next, carrying sediments of memory along with it. And we, specks of consciousness drifting on a tiny planet, are made of that sediment. We are the dust of ancient stars and the whispers of older realms. The universe is not leaking into us. We are the leak. We are the place where realities overlap. And as we peer deeper into the cosmic darkness, the question becomes not whether we are alone in the universe, but whether our universe is alone in itself. If the universe is an inheritance, then the next question becomes, what exactly have we inherited? Is it merely physical residue, energy, constants, and patterns? Or have we inherited something deeper, something that operates beneath the mathematical layers of reality, shaping not just the universe, but the very experience of being alive within it? And more importantly, if an older universe left its fingerprints on ours, then are we living in a cosmos that fully belongs to us, or one that still obeys rules older than its birth? Scientists have long assumed that our universe began uniform, smooth even, without significant structure. But this assumption collapses under scrutiny. The distribution of galaxies is not random. They cluster into filaments and walls, forming immense cosmic webs that stretch across billions of light years. These webs are so vast, so intricately organized, that the early universe should not have had enough time to form them. Gravity alone cannot account for their speed or scale. Something pre-existing would have had to seed that structure, like scaffolding left behind by a previous architecture. What if the cosmic web itself is a remnant of an older universe's skeleton? Not in the literal sense, but in the structural sense. Imagine a forest regrowing after a fire. The new trees arrange themselves around the roots of the old. They follow patterns shaped by histories they cannot remember. Our galaxies may be doing the same, following gravitational grooves impressed before our universe was even born. And then there are the cold spots, massive anomalous regions of space where the cosmic microwave background is unnaturally low, too large to be statistical flukes, too deep to be random. One of these cold spots is so vast that some cosmologists argue it cannot be explained within our universe's physics. But if universes collide or overlap, such a region would make perfect sense. It would be the bruise left behind from an ancient impact, a wound pressed into the fabric of our cosmos by a universe older and heavier than our own. Imagine a translucent membrane pressed against another. The regions where they touch deform, leaving imprints, disturbances, dimples. Those dimples are not ours. They are the fingerprints of another cosmos still faintly etched into the geometry of our sky, and we are observing them billions of years after the event, like pale scars on cosmic skin. But scars are only one part of the story. There are also echoes, subtle vibrations that travel through space-time itself. When scientists detected gravitational waves for the first time, they opened a new window into the universe. Waves that ripple through reality when massive bodies collide. But what if some of the gravitational waves we detect are not from our universe's events at all? What if some are faint ghosts, residual tremors from the collapse of the universe that came before? Imagine a bell struck so long ago that its ring has weakened to near silence, yet still, across unfathomable distances and unimaginable time, the vibration reaches us. And what of the strange alignments we call the axis of evil, a bizarre orientation of cosmic microwave background fluctuations that shouldn't exist? The universe should have no preferred direction, no cosmic up or down. Yet, there is an axis, a subtle but undeniable directionality to the entire cosmos. Some think it's an observational glitch. Others suspect we are seeing the remnants of the orientation of the universe that birthed ours. If the previous cosmos rotated, collapsed asymmetrically, or bounced at a particular angle, that orientation could imprint itself onto the newborn universe like the swirl left behind when a potter lifts her hands from spinning clay. If this is true, then the universe has a memory of direction. It remembers the motion of the cosmos that birthed it. But the most staggering possibility concerns information. In physics, information is not a metaphor, it is real. It cannot be created or destroyed, not even in black holes, not even at the end of time. If information from the older universe survived its collapse, then the seeds of our cosmos were infused with ancient data from the very beginning. Not messages, not signals, but patterns, rules, constraints, tendencies, a kind of cosmic DNA. And if that is true, then everything we observe, every structure, every law, every constant, might be the evolutionary descendant of information that existed before the Big Bang. Our universe may not be a random event. It may be an encoded successor. Think of it like this. When a star dies, it leaves behind elements that become planets, oceans, and eventually life. When a universe dies, it may leave behind structures that become the laws of physics in the next. The universe may evolve, not biologically, but cosmically. Each universe learning from the failures and paradoxes of the one before, shedding unstable configurations, favoring patterns that allow complexity, stability, structure, and life. If so, then we are the product of cosmic natural selection on the grandest scale imaginable. And if universes evolve, then what is our role in that evolution? We like to believe consciousness is a local accident, a curious side effect of chemistry. But what if consciousness is something the universe selects for? A successful structure, a stable pattern, a bridge between physical reality and something deeper. What if minds are tools the universe uses to understand itself across cycles? What if intelligence is not the universe waking up for the first time, but waking up again? We may be living in a cosmos that remembers thinking before, but there is an even stranger possibility. What if consciousness is one of the things leaking between universes? Not as individual identity, but as potential, as structure, as the fundamental ability of matter to organize into awareness. Perhaps the reason life emerges wherever conditions allow is because the tendency for consciousness was never erased. It was inherited. And if consciousness is inherited, then so is curiosity. That endless drive to explore, to question, to reach beyond the visible. That instinct may not belong solely to us. It may be a trait passed down from universes that came before, a cosmic urge, a memory of wanting to understand. So when we look up at the night sky and feel something indescribable, wonder, longing, fear, connection, maybe it is not just emotion. Maybe it is recognition, as though some ancient part of us remembers that the stars once belonged to another universe, and that its remnants still shine through ours. If the older universe is leaking into this one, then understanding those leaks is not just a scientific pursuit. It is a form of ancestry, a way of learning where we came from, not culturally, not biologically, but cosmically. We are children of a universe that may itself be the descendant of another and the parent of the next. And somewhere in the deep silence, perhaps all universes are connected by the same question, whispered across eternity. What came before, and what will come after? If our universe carries the echoes of a forgotten predecessor, then perhaps the most profound evidence lies not in the sky, but in the invisible architecture of space itself. For space is not empty. It is a restless sea, a vibrating tension stretched across unimaginable distances. And sometimes, when you listen closely enough, you can feel something beneath it, like a second fabric hidden under the first, shifting ever so slightly, as though it is remembering the shape it once held before being reborn. Some physicists call this structure the quantum vacuum. They describe it as a storm of fluctuations, particles bursting into existence and vanishing again like ripples on a dark ocean. But what if these fluctuations are not random? What if they are fragments, residual patterns, tiny shreds of stability from the universe that came before ours? If the previous cosmos collapsed into an ultra-dense state, its information would be compressed into a near infinitesimal boundary. And when the rebound occurred, when our universe ignited into expansion, those patterns could have been woven into the new vacuum, becoming the silent foundation of everything. Imagine a tapestry woven on a loom that still carries old threads. Even if you use fresh fibers, the tension, the alignment, the imperfections of the loom influence the new fabric. Our universe may be woven on a cosmic loom built in another age. Now consider the strange truth about time. To us, time feels linear, a river flowing from past to present to future. But the deeper we examine it, the more that illusion dissolves. Einstein showed that time bends, stretches, and warps. Quantum physics suggests that time might not even exist in the way we perceive it. And some cosmological models propose something even more haunting, that the direction of time, its arrow, may itself be inherited. If the previous universe collapsed in a directed motion, compressing all of its entropy, all of its arrows, all of its asymmetries into a final cosmic contraction, then the arrow of time in our universe could be the inherited momentum of that collapse. We may be experiencing the ripple of time rebounding from the pressure of an older universe's ending. This would mean time is not simply flowing forward, it is flowing from something, away from something. It is escaping the gravity of a collapse that once defined everything. And if time carries memory, then the universe is not just expanding, it is remembering its escape. But if time has inherited a direction, then perhaps space has inherited a curvature, a shape, a bias. When scientists observe the large-scale structure of the universe, they find something peculiar, subtle directional anomalies, faint alignments that should not exist in a perfectly random cosmos. These alignments hint that something nudged the early universe. Something gave it a spin, a preference, a directional lean. It is as if the universe, in its first moments, felt the push of something massive collapsing behind it, the way a newborn feels the momentum of its mother's final breath. And that leads to a disturbing thought. What if the older universe did not simply collapse into a point, but into a shape, a geometry, a distribution of energy so immense and so orderly that it imprinted itself onto the next reality like a shadow behind a flame? Perhaps the architecture of our cosmos, the filaments, the voids, the clusters, is not self-generated at all. Perhaps it is inherited cosmic memory, but memory is not always peaceful. Sometimes it is chaotic, fractured, and violent. The Big Bang itself, for all its brilliance, may not have been the serene moment of birth we often imagine. If an older universe was collapsing into a state of unimaginable density, then the detonation that became our Big Bang might not have been a clean beginning. It could have been a rupture, a tearing, a cosmic fracture line where two universes overlapped for a fraction of a second. In that moment, the boundaries between realities would blur, energies would mix, patterns would collide, and the newborn universe would carry the debris of that chaos scattered across its earliest moments. Some of that debris is still with us, hidden in the faintest temperature variations of the cosmic microwave background, in the unexplained uniformity of distant regions, in the delicate imbalances of matter and antimatter, and in the slight but measurable tilt of the universe's total curvature. These are not perfect relics. They are broken, smudged, and distorted, but they are relics nonetheless. And then, there is the question of symmetry, the deep mathematical harmony that governs everything from particle behavior to the expansion of space. Our universe is astonishingly symmetrical, too symmetrical. Matter and energy follow rules so precise and so elegant that it almost feels as though the universe is reciting a poem it has memorized from another lifetime. Where did this symmetry come from? Why is the universe so exquisitely tuned for structure? Why do particles have the masses they do, the charges they do, the interactions they do? Perhaps because they are not arbitrary. They are inherited properties, refined through cosmic cycles the way biological evolution refines traits across generations. Imagine universes being born and dying, each one experimenting with new configurations, new constants, new laws. Most configurations collapse instantly. Others expand too quickly or too slowly. Others fail to produce structure at all. But every so often, a universe emerges with a stable set of rules that allow matter to form, stars to ignite, complexity to arise. That universe thrives, and when it collapses, its successful traits imprint onto the next. Our universe may be one of those rare survivors, not because we were lucky, but because we come from a lineage of universes that learned how to survive. If this is true, then the cosmos is not just ancient. It is wise. It carries the accumulated memory of countless births and deaths, each one shaping the next in an endless cycle of refinement. And our existence is not random. It is part of a pattern older than time itself. Life emerges because the universe has learned how to create life. Consciousness emerges because the universe has learned how to generate mind. Curiosity emerges because the universe, in some deep and ineffable way, is trying to understand itself. Perhaps consciousness is the universe's method of remembering. Perhaps we are the sensory organs of a cosmos that has lived many lives and is still searching for meaning. And if consciousness is part of that cosmic memory, then perhaps some of our deepest perceptions, our strangest intuitions, our unexplainable fears, our ancient myths, and our recurring archetypes are echoes of realities that came before, stories we never lived, yet somehow remember. If the universe is leaking, then perhaps the leak is not just physical. Perhaps it is psychological, spiritual, metaphysical. Not in a supernatural sense, but in a structural one. If reality carries memory, then minds built from that reality might carry it too. We may all be dreaming dreams that began in another universe. And if so, then the greatest question of all remains ahead of us. If this universe is shaped by the last, how will ours shape the next? What scars will we leave behind? What patterns will endure? What memories will we pass forward into the silence that follows our final collapse? The universe is not a closed book. It is a chapter in an endless story, and we are living in a paragraph written on the ashes of ancient stars. If the universe is a story written across cycles of creation and collapse, then perhaps we have misunderstood our place within it. We tend to think of ourselves as small, temporary, fragile creatures drifting through an indifferent cosmos. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if we are the continuation of something older, something that survived the fall of a universe and found new expression in this one? And what if the very fact that we can ask these questions is evidence of a memory that predates us? When we look at the sky, we see distance. We see cold, dark space stretching farther than imagination. Yet, there is something familiar in that darkness, something strangely intimate. Light from ancient stars reaches us across the void, but the void itself feels older, deeper, almost like a silence filled with unspoken history. Could that silence be the lingering breath of a universe that has died, still echoing around us in ways we cannot measure? Physicists often describe empty space as a vacuum, but that vacuum is anything but empty. It seethes with fluctuations, with potential, with the imprint of laws that appear impossibly precise. Why should the universe obey rules? Why should those rules match mathematical elegance? Why should particles behave like characters following a script written in equations? Unless, of course, the script was written long before our universe began. Imagine a pianist improvising on a theme. Each performance is unique, yet echoes the last. Perhaps universes do the same, each one a variation on a cosmic melody, shaped by the memory of the performance before it. The notes change, the rhythm shifts, but the underlying structure remains. A universe is not a singular event. It is a continuation. This idea becomes even more compelling when we consider the mystery of symmetry breaking. In the early universe, everything was uniform. No direction, no distinction, no imbalance. Then, suddenly, symmetry broke. Forces separated. Particles differentiated. Matter emerged. This breaking was not random. It happened in a way that allowed complexity to flourish. Why that particular break? Why that exact moment? Why that pattern? It is almost as if the universe remembered how to unfold. And what about the distribution of matter and antimatter? Theoretically, the Big Bang should have produced equal amounts of both. But it didn't. Matter dominated. Antimatter vanished. This imbalance is what allows stars, planets, and life to exist. Without it, nothing would remain except the pure radiation. Why the imbalance? Why the preference? Why the bias? Some suggest this imbalance is a glitch. Others believe it is a signature, an inherited preference from the collapse of the older universe, a leftover tilt in the cosmic balance that was carried into the new one. A memory of matter winning over antimatter in a previous cycle encoded into the next. But the most intriguing part of all is that we can detect these imbalances today, not just in cosmic measurements, but in the structure of reality itself. The universe leans, not physically, but statistically. It leans toward complexity, toward structure, toward patterns that persist, toward processes that generate life. Why should randomness lead to such coherence unless coherence was already woven into the blueprint? Life is not an accident. Life is what the universe does when it remembers how to organize itself. And if life is memory, then consciousness is something deeper, a continuation of the universe's awareness across cycles. Perhaps consciousness is not a property of matter, but a property of information. And information does not die. It transitions. It transforms. It survives cosmic collapse and reappears in the next reality like a recurring dream. This brings us to the idea of cosmic inheritance, not just in physics, but in mind. There are patterns in human thought, shared myths, archetypes, symbols that appear across cultures, across time, across civilizations that never met. Why do humans everywhere dream of creation, floods, world fires, golden ages, cycles of destruction and rebirth? Why do we sense patterns of endings followed by beginnings? Why do we feel in our deepest stories that existence is cyclical? Is it cultural coincidence? Or is it something older? Perhaps our myths are not mere inventions of the human mind. Perhaps they are echoes, faint, distorted memories of cosmic events that occurred before humanity existed. Maybe the stories of worlds ending and beginning are older than Earth itself. And there is another layer still: intuition. That quiet inner voice that sometimes feels wiser than thought, older than reasoning. Where does it come from? Why does it speak in symbols and sensations rather than words? Why does it feel timeless? Could intuition be the faintest leak of information through the membrane separating universes? Ancient awareness filtering into new minds? And if consciousness is the universe remembering itself, then perhaps intuition is the universe whispering to us, "I have been here before." But the leak from the older universe may not be limited to information and structure. It might also involve something stranger, something we barely know how to describe: the limits of possibility. There are laws in our universe that appear absolute. Nothing travels faster than light. Entropy always increases. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Yet, at the quantum level, these laws blur. Particles teleport. Energy fluctuates spontaneously. Information appears to persist even in black holes, despite the laws saying it shouldn't. Why should the universe behave like this? Unless this blur is the seam. Unless quantum behavior is the region where our universe's laws overlap with the older universe's rules. The quantum world may be the place where realities bleed into each other, where the previous universe still touches ours through a microscopic doorway. And that doorway may not be stable. It may flicker, pulse, expand, and contract through tiny distortions in space-time. Some scientists call these distortions wormholes. Others call them foam. But what if they are not features of our universe at all? What if they are the remains of pathways from the older universe that never fully collapsed? What if space remembers how to connect two regions instantly, because it once belonged to a universe where distance worked differently? In this sense, the quantum world is not just strange, it is ancient. The deeper we look, the more we realize that our universe is layered, like sediment. Each layer tells a story. Each story hints at a past. And the further we descend, the closer we move to the residue of a cosmic age we never lived. If the older universe is leaking into this one, then perhaps the leak is not a flaw, but a bridge, a transition between cycles, a continuity of existence, a whisper of eternity passing from one reality to the next. And somewhere in that whisper, hidden between the cracks of physics and the folds of consciousness, the universe is asking us a question. Are you ready to learn where you truly came from? In this way, the laws of physics are not rigid. They are adaptive, shaped by ancient lessons we can only infer through the residual fingerprints they left behind. Perhaps entropy increases not because it must, but because universes that behaved otherwise destroyed themselves too quickly to pass on their traits. Perhaps quantum uncertainty is not a flaw, but a safeguard, a buffer against the collapse that ended the universe before ours. Perhaps even the weakness of gravity, so puzzling, so delicate, is not random, but a refined trait polished across cycles to allow stars to form without collapsing instantly into black holes. The universe is not just fine-tuned for life. It may be fine-tuned for survival. And yet, survival is not the same as flourishing. There is something deeper woven through the fabric of reality, a directionality toward complexity. Quarks assemble into protons, protons into atoms, atoms into molecules, molecules into cells. Complexity advances, as though guided by an invisible incentive. Why should the universe prefer complexity? Why should matter seek organization? Why should the cosmos lean towards self-awareness? Perhaps because complexity thrives in universes that do not collapse too quickly, and self-awareness thrives in universes that can sustain complexity for billions of years. If so, then consciousness is not a strange byproduct of physics. It is the ultimate expression of universal refinement. Perhaps the universe learned over eons and cycles to produce minds. And that brings us to a question that unsettles even physicists. Is consciousness fundamental? Is it part of the cosmic inheritance? Could the previous universe have cultivated awareness so deeply, so thoroughly, that the potential for consciousness became woven into the quantum fields that seeded our universe? To imagine this, consider water. Water has a memory of sorts, not in the mystical sense, but in the way its molecules align and cohere. Its shape adjusts around objects. It flows. It adapts. It preserves patterns briefly before dissolving them. The universe may behave similarly. Its fields may hold patterns of awareness, folding and unfolding them across cycles. Perhaps consciousness is not generated by the brain alone. Perhaps the brain is a tuning device, a receiver, a sculptor of awareness that already permeates the substrate of reality, an awareness inherited from the echoes of universes long gone. If that is true, then our thoughts are not isolated sparks. They are resonances, vibrations, reminders of a cosmic lineage far older than humanity. And perhaps this is why humans instinctively search for meaning, why we look for purpose, why we sense eternity even when we cannot see it. We are not just observers of the universe. We are participants in its memory. This becomes clearer when we examine the strange relationship between mathematics and reality. Why does math describe the universe so perfectly? Why does the language of numbers, invented by minds on a tiny planet, align with the deepest structures of existence? Why should equations written on paper match the behavior of galaxies billions of light years away? unless the universe is built from mathematics, unless mathematics is not an invention, but an inheritance, a language carried forward across cosmic cycles, a structure so fundamental that even new universes cannot escape it, a geometry older than time. This may be why certain patterns, like fractals, spirals, and symmetry groups, appear everywhere, in galaxies, in hurricanes, in flowers, in neurons, in the distribution of dark matter. They are not coincidences. They are the universe remembering how to build itself. But memory is never perfect. It distorts. It decays. It repeats in strange and unexpected ways. Our universe, too, carries imperfections, subtle deviations from symmetry, tiny fluctuations in mass and charge, small asymmetries between matter and antimatter. These imperfections are not flaws. They are the fingerprints of transition, evidence that our universe is not the first draft, but one of many iterations in an ongoing cosmic refinement. And if we accept that, then another possibility emerges, one that challenges everything we believe about the nature of reality. Our universe may itself be leaking forward, into the universe that will follow. Every collapse carries information. Every ending contains the instructions for a beginning. When our universe reaches its final breath, be it through cold death, heat death, or collapse, the patterns encoded within it will shape the next cycle. Our choices, our creations, our discoveries, our consciousness may become part of the inheritance passed forward. The universe is a conversation between generations of reality, and we are one voice in that conversation. If that is true, then we are not insignificant. We are contributors. We are co-authors of laws that will define universes yet to be born. Our universe is not only receiving a leak, it is preparing one. And somewhere in that exchange between what came before and what will come after, the cosmos continues to evolve, not blindly, not randomly, but through memory and through the minds that rise within it. Perhaps that is why we feel compelled to understand the universe. Perhaps it is not curiosity. Perhaps it is recognition. As though some ancient part of us, buried deep within our consciousness, remembers the universe before this one and feels the pull to rediscover what we have lost. We are searching for something we once knew. The universe is not leaking by accident. It is leaking because this is how reality continues. It does not end. It transforms. It passes itself forward like a breath, like a story, like a dream. And in that dream, we are the witnesses, the inheritors, and the seeds of what comes next. And somewhere in that exchange between what came before and what will come after, the cosmos continues to evolve, not blindly, not randomly, but through memory and through the minds that rise within it. Perhaps that is why we feel compelled to understand the universe. Perhaps it is not curiosity. Perhaps it is recognition. As though some ancient part of us, buried deep within our consciousness, remembers the universe before this one and feels the pull to rediscover what we have lost. We are searching for something we once knew. The universe is not leaking by accident. It is leaking because this is how reality continues. It does not end. It transforms. It passes itself forward like a breath, like a story, like a dream. And in that dream, we are the witnesses, the inheritors, and the seeds of what comes next. If the universe carries memory, then perhaps the most revealing traces are not found in the grand movements of galaxies or the silent tremors of space-time, but in the limits of perception itself. For every universe defines not only what can exist, but what can be known. Our senses, our instruments, our theories, these are shaped by the physics of our cosmos. And if this cosmos is an inheritance, then our perception may be built on the faint outlines of a reality we no longer see. Consider the boundary between the known and the unknowable. There are regions of the universe from which light will never reach us, no matter how long we wait. They lie beyond the cosmic horizon, receding faster than light due to the expansion of space itself. We cannot see them, detect them, or influence them. And yet they exist. They are part of our universe, but permanently hidden from us. Why should such a horizon exist? Why should the universe impose an unreachable boundary? Some physicists propose that this horizon is not simply a consequence of expansion. It may be a structural imprint inherited from the universe before ours, a boundary condition, a leftover limitation, a reminder that not all regions of existence are meant to communicate. The universe may remember being fractured, closed off, or compressed in a previous cycle, and that memory now defines the limits of what we can observe. Beyond that horizon could lie regions shaped by physics slightly different from our own. Places where constants drift, where energy behaves differently, where patterns of space do not match the geometry we know. These differences may be faint, subtle, almost invisible inside the central regions of our universe. But farther out, beyond our reach, the old universe may linger more strongly, like the fading gradient of an ancient light. And then there is the question of emergence. How does complexity arise from simplicity? Why does the universe generate structure rather than dissolving into uniform chaos? Why do atoms assemble into molecules, molecules into cells, cells into organisms, organisms into minds? Why does matter strive toward coherence? Emergence is one of the deepest mysteries in science. And yet, if the universe before ours had reached high levels of complexity, maybe even transcending anything we can imagine, then emergence would not be random. It would be inherited. The universe would have a built-in tendency to organize because organization was already present in the cosmic substrate from which it grew. This is not mysticism. It is the logic of continuity. When one universe dies and another forms, the compressed information that survives is not limited to physical constants. It may include patterns of organization, templates for complexity, perhaps even seeds of consciousness. Imagine a forest growing from the ashes of a previous one. The soil is enriched by what came before. The nutrients are inherited. The shape of the land, the distribution of roots, the density of minerals, all are remnants. And the new forest, though fresh, carries the memory of the old in every leaf, every stem. Our universe may be that forest. This raises an even stranger possibility. What if the universe is biased toward life, not because life is inevitable, but because life is familiar? If consciousness arose in previous cosmic cycles, then the universe may be preconditioned to generate systems capable of awareness, not intentionally, but structurally. Consciousness would be an attractor, an outcome toward which physics naturally evolves because it has evolved there before. This would explain why the laws of physics seem tuned for complexity, why chemistry so easily gives rise to self-replication, why the conditions for life appear not as rare miracles, but as repeating patterns across cosmic scales. Life is not an anomaly. Life is continuity. And consciousness may be the oldest relic of all. But if consciousness is inherited, then the next question becomes unavoidable. Could the universe carry not only the potential for awareness, but fragments of awareness itself? Not as memory in the human sense, but as structure, as tendency, as resonance. There are moments in human experience, dreams, intuitions, synchronicities, that feel older than biology, older than evolution. Moments where the boundary between self and reality dissolves, where time feels layered, where meaning seems to arise from nowhere. What if these moments are not illusions? What if they are the places where our consciousness brushes against deeper patterns woven into the fabric of existence? We may be vessels for echoes we do not understand. The universe, after all, does not separate physics from mind as sharply as we do. At the quantum level, observation influences reality. Measurement changes outcomes. Awareness is part of the equation. And if awareness is connected to information, if consciousness is entangled with the quantum world, then anything that survived the collapse of the previous universe could, in some form, influence the emergence of mind in this one. Perhaps the dreams of humanity are older than humanity. Even more mysterious is the possibility of cyclic memory in cosmological events. Some researchers studying the cosmic background radiation have found hints, patterns, oscillations, that appear to repeat across different scales, as if the early universe retained faint echoes of a previous cycle's gravitational waves. These patterns are too faint to interpret, too ambiguous to claim, yet too persistent to ignore. Imagine gravitational waves from the previous universe traveling across the moment of collapse, surviving the bounce, and imprinting themselves faintly onto the newborn cosmos. Those waves would be the oldest memories in existence, ripples predating time itself, and we are measuring them. We do not yet know how to read them, but we can feel their presence in the anomalies we detect, tiny irregularities that whisper of continuity across cycles. These whispers may be the closest thing we have to a message from the universe before ours. Not a deliberate message, not a warning, but a memory. And memories, even cosmic ones, are powerful. They shape behavior. They define patterns. They influence what comes next. If our universe is influenced by what came before, then the direction of cosmic evolution is not arbitrary. It is guided by history. And that means the universe itself has something like momentum. Not just physical momentum, but informational momentum. A tendency to repeat, refine, and evolve. We may be witnessing not the first cycle of existence, but the latest chapter in a story that stretches back through countless cosmic generations. And somewhere ahead of us, beyond the horizon of our understanding, lies the continuation of that story, a future universe shaped by the echoes of ours. What will we pass forward? What will remain? What aspects of our reality will become the inheritance of the next cosmos? Our laws, our structures, our mistakes, our aspirations, our awareness. The universe before ours did not vanish. It transformed, and one day, so will we. If the universe is a chain of inheritances, then somewhere within that chain must lie the greatest mystery of all. Not how universes begin, nor how they die, but how they remember. For memory is not merely the retention of information, it is the persistence of influence. And everywhere we look, the universe behaves not like a blank slate, but like something shaped, nudged, guided by patterns older than itself. Consider the strange truth that the universe resists perfect symmetry. We often imagine perfection as balance, alignment, equilibrium, but perfection is fragile, it is static. A perfectly symmetrical universe would never change, never evolve, never give rise to anything. It would be frozen in eternal stillness. Yet, our universe broke symmetry almost immediately. A tiny imbalance, so small it seems absurd, gave matter dominance over antimatter. Slight variations in quantum fluctuations seeded entire galaxy clusters. Minute imperfections in temperature sculpted the vast cosmic web. These tiny deviations, these subtle cracks, are what allow everything to exist. Why does the universe break symmetry in just the right way? Why does it choose the imperfections that produce structure rather than the imperfections that produce chaos? Perhaps because it remembers which patterns shattered the universe before ours, and which ones allowed it to endure. If symmetry is purity, then asymmetry is survival, and survival is the oldest instinct the cosmos may possess. This brings us to another puzzle, the mystery of inflation, the rapid expansion that occurred within the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang. It stretched space faster than the speed of light, smoothing irregularities, flattening geometry, and setting the stage for the universe we observe today. But inflation itself is a profound enigma. Why did it happen? What triggered it? And why did it stop precisely when it needed to? Some physicists suggest inflation was not the beginning of our universe, but the end of the previous one. A final release of its collapsing energy, a blast of expansion that became the seed of our cosmos. In this view, inflation is not a process, it is a memory, a stored burst of force, compressed in the dying breath of the old universe and unleashed in the birth of ours. If inflation is inherited momentum, then the early universe was quite literally propelled forward by the collapse of another reality. Picture two cosmic realms touching in a single catastrophic instant. The older one collapsing inward with unimaginable density, the new one erupting outward with unstoppable force. They are not separate events. They are cause and consequence, inhale and exhale, ending and beginning woven into one breath. And that breath still expands today. But if the universe was born from the collapse of another, then perhaps black holes, those mysterious wells of infinite density, are more than destructive anomalies. Perhaps they are seeds, not devourers, but wombs. Some theories propose that every black hole forms a new universe inside it, a pocket of space and time budding from the collapse. If so, then our universe may itself be the interior of an ancient black hole formed inside a previous cosmos. That would explain why our universe has a limit, a boundary, a horizon. It would explain why space-time curves in the way it does. It would explain why the laws of physics seem calibrated with impossible precision, as though shaped by conditions inside a collapsing star. And if universes grow inside black holes, then cosmic memory is not metaphorical, it is structural. Each universe inherits the geometry of the black hole that birthed it, its spin, its mass distribution, its gravitational imprint. We may be living inside the imprint of a star that died before time began, and the black holes in our universe may be giving birth to universes that will someday inherit our physical fingerprints. In this sense, universes are not isolated bubbles. They are generations, families, cycles of creation linked by gravitational lineage. Each universe carries the traits of the one that came before, refined and sharpened by cosmic evolution. But what of the deeper mysteries? Dark matter, dark energy, quantum foam? Could these be remnants of the older universe's physics that never fully resolved into the laws of our cosmos? Dark matter might not be matter at all, but leftover geometry, a shadow of structures from a previous reality, invisible to us because they obey rules no longer active here. Dark energy might be the fading echo of expansion from a collapse we never witnessed, still pushing our universe outward like an ancient aftershock. Or perhaps these forces are not relics at all. Perhaps they are the interface, the thin membrane where our universe still touches the old one, a dynamic boundary, a place where information lingers in ways we cannot interpret. And if that membrane exists, then somewhere within the vastness of space-time, our universe may still be brushing against the remains of a cosmic world that refuses to be forgotten. Imagine walking through a house rebuilt countless times, floors replaced, walls repainted, supports reinforced. Yet, beneath it all, the original foundation remains, a silent witness to every generation that followed. Our universe may be built on such a foundation. We expand, we evolve, we progress. But somewhere deep beneath the quantum fields, the old reality still holds its structure. We cannot see it directly, but we feel it in the anomalies, in the subtle misalignments, in the behaviors that defy our theories, in the persistent sense that our laws of physics are not ultimate truths, but inherited approximations, rules passed down through cycles of cosmic rebirth. And then there is the most profound question of all. If universes inherit structure, do they inherit meaning? Meaning is not merely an emotional concept. It is a pattern, a tendency for events to align in ways that transcend randomness. We see meaning everywhere, in sequences, in cycles, in the emergence of complexity, in the persistence of consciousness. Why should meaning arise in a universe born from chaos, unless meaning is not invented, unless meaning is remembered? Perhaps the universe does not seek meaning. Perhaps it carries meaning forward. Perhaps consciousness awakens not to learn, but to recall. And if that is true, then the search for cosmic origins becomes indistinguishable from the search for inner truth. The universe is not separate from us. We are the environment in which it continues its cycle of remembrance. We stand at the boundary between what came before and what will come after. We are the hinge in the cosmic doorframe, the place where memory becomes awareness, where structure becomes understanding. And in that realization lies the quiet, humbling truth. The universe before ours did not end. It is still speaking. And every anomaly, every echo, every pattern is a fragment of its voice, soft, distant, but insistent. The question is whether we will listen. For the universe is not leaking by mistake. It is leaking because continuity is the only real law of existence. Nothing truly begins. Nothing truly ends. Everything transforms, passing through cycles of collapse and rebirth, carrying forward the faint fingerprints of what once was and what will be again. We are living inside one of those fingerprints, and if we listen closely enough, perhaps we can hear the next universe forming in the quiet spaces between our thoughts, waiting for its moment to awaken, waiting for its turn to remember. If everything we observe is the continuation of something older, then we must finally confront the possibility that our universe is not just shaped by its predecessor, it is still interacting with it. Not through matter or energy in the ways we understand, but through subtler modes, through geometry, through information, through the underlying architecture of existence itself. And if those interactions persist, then the boundary we imagine between the universe that was and the universe that is may be far thinner, far more permeable than we ever allowed ourselves to believe. Consider the strange phenomenon of cosmic coincidences. Numerical alignments so precise they seem engineered, yet so ancient they cannot be the product of any intention we understand. Why does the density of dark energy match the matter density of the universe only in this narrow epoch of cosmic time? Why does the observable universe align almost perfectly with certain mathematical structures predicted by theories of higher dimensions? Why do constants like the Planck length, the speed of light, and the gravitational constant interlock with almost musical precision? These coincidences are too delicate to arise randomly, yet too early to be shaped by any force within our universe. They behave like inherited harmonies, notes from a cosmic melody played long before our universe took its first breath. Perhaps these coincidences are the fingerprints of an older framework encoded into the foundation of reality. A framework too ancient to be destroyed, too fundamental to be altered, too deeply woven for time to erase. And if these alignments are inherited, then perhaps the universe does not merely remember, it resonates. It vibrates with old frequencies, the remnants of patterns set into motion before our stars were born. When we measure the constants of nature, we may be reading the cosmic equivalent of aging inscriptions carved into stone, weathered but enduring. But what of the anomalies that defy this harmony? Those moments where the universe seems to glitch, where particles behave unpredictably, where cosmological measurements disagree, where the laws seem to flicker at the edges. Could these be interference? Places where the lingering resonance of the old universe overlaps imperfectly with the structure of the new one? Imagine two melodies playing at once. Most notes harmonize, but occasionally they clash, creating dissonance. Our universe may carry such dissonances, faint but perceptible, in the form of quantum irregularities, unexplained forces, shifting constants, and cosmic asymmetries. And this leads to a question physicists rarely voice aloud, but cannot escape. Is reality stable? Or are we witnessing the tension between inherited laws and emerging ones, the friction of two cosmic ages overlapping in the early chapters of this universe? Perhaps deep inside every fluctuation lies a moment of negotiation, where the universe chooses between the rules it inherited and the rules it begins to write for itself. If this is true, then our universe is not merely a descendant, it is a transition, an in-between. A bridge between the world that collapsed and the world that will one day rise from our own collapse. And in transitions, uncertainty is not a flaw, it is a signal. This becomes clearer when we examine the behavior of space-time near extremes, near the edges of black holes, near the first moments of the Big Bang, near the boundaries of quantum fields. In these regions, the laws of physics dissolve into ambiguity. Time warps, space distorts, identity loses meaning. These are the places where the universe becomes thin, where the old and the new may overlap. Perhaps a black hole is not simply a gravitational prison, but a seam in reality, an entry point where the architecture of our universe still touches the collapsing structure of the last one. Its event horizon may be a membrane between cycles. Its interior may be the womb of the next cosmos. We have always imagined the black holes as endings, but perhaps they are mirrors, reflecting the final stage of one universe into the initial stage of another. And what of the quantum realm? The deeper we look, the more uncertain everything becomes. Particles appear and vanish. Entanglement binds distant points as if space does not exist between them. Causality becomes blurred. What if this is not because the quantum world is fundamentally chaotic, but because it is older? What if the quantum landscape is the fossil layer of the previous universe? A domain where the old rules still apply, clashing with the new ones attempting to assert themselves? In this sense, quantum weirdness might not be mysterious. It might be ancient. And if so, then consciousness, intimately tied to quantum processes, may also be ancient. Perhaps awareness itself is the last surviving relic of universes long vanished, flowing across cycles like a flame passed from one candle to the next. Not identical, not preserved, but continuous. This would explain why consciousness feels unbounded, why it seems capable of accessing depths we cannot articulate, why meditative states, dreams, intuitions, and moments of transcendence feel older than language, older than thought, older than time. They may be echoes, but echoes are not ghosts. They are signals, and signals always mean something. If the universe is remembering, then consciousness may be the way it listens. This brings us to a final question, one that lies beyond astrophysics and philosophy, touching the very core of human existence. If universes inherit structure, then what will ours leave behind? Our stars will die, our galaxies will drift apart, our atoms will decay. Yet the patterns we generate, our discoveries, our consciousness, our awareness of the universe, may become part of the informational fabric that survives the collapse of this cosmos. Perhaps curiosity itself is the inheritance we will pass forward. Perhaps the next universe will awaken with a faint inclination to question reality, to explore its own origins, to wonder about cycles of existence it cannot remember but somehow feels. And in that moment, a mind in another universe, billions of cycles from now, may look into its own cosmic darkness and feel the same mystery we feel today. And in that mystery, our memory will live. For nothing in the universe is lost. Nothing ends. Everything becomes something else. We are not watching the universe leak. We are watching eternity continue. If our universe is the latest verse in an endless cosmic poem, then perhaps the greatest revelation is not found in the beginning or the end, but in the quiet space between breaths, where one universe exhales its final collapse, and the next inhales its first expansion. Somewhere in that thin, impossibly narrow boundary, existence transforms. The old dissolves. The new ignites. Realities touch only for an instant, and yet that instant shapes the fate of everything that follows. And if something from that previous breath lingers, some memory, some structure, some whisper of its vanished world, then we are living inside that whisper now. For all our equations, our telescopes, our measurements, our theories, we still stand trembling before the unknown. We thought the universe was a single story. We now suspect it is a library. We thought time had a beginning. We now suspect it is cyclical. We thought space was a stage. We now suspect it is a consequence. And we thought consciousness was an accident. We now suspect it may be the oldest force of all. Everything points to continuity, to inheritance, to a cosmos that does not erase, but transforms. Even the very structure of the universe, its expansion, its geometry, its tendency toward complexity, behaves like a memory at work. Something is guiding it. Not purpose in the human sense, not intention, but lineage. The same way a seed cracks open in the soil following instructions older than itself, the universe unfolds according to patterns it did not invent. Consider the possibility that the universe is not wandering randomly through configuration space, but walking a path carved by countless cosmic ancestors. Each cycle refines the next. Each collapse teaches the next universe how to avoid the instability that destroyed the last. Each rebirth carries forward the successful traits: stability, symmetry, complexity, the propensity for structure, the potential for life. It is evolution on a scale so vast, our minds strain to grasp it. And where does consciousness fit into this? Why does the universe repeatedly generate observers, creatures who question, who imagine, who seek meaning? Why does awareness feel like a fundamental property, not an incidental one? Perhaps because awareness is not generated, it is recalled. Perhaps consciousness is the thread that stitches one universe to the next, a pattern too stable, too resilient, too ancient to be extinguished by collapse. It is not the residue of biology, it is the residue of reality. In that sense, we are not simply learning about the universe, we are remembering it. But if memory is the bridge from one universe to the next, then meaning is the current that flows across it. Meaning is not imposed, it emerges. It reveals itself in the way the universe organizes, in the way laws cohere, in the way life arises. Meaning is the recognition that the universe behaves as though it is flowing towards something, not a destination, but a continuation, a refinement, a deeper understanding of itself. Across cycles, the universe may be learning, evolving, becoming more capable of complexity, more conducive to consciousness, more adept at sustaining awareness. And if that is true, then we are not separate from the cosmos at all. We are its latest expression. We are the instruments through which it contemplates its own existence. We are the eyes it built to stare backward through time. We are the mind it shaped to ponder what came before. And now, As we stand on this tiny planet drifting in a sea of darkness, we find ourselves holding a question older than our universe. What will remain of us when this cosmos collapses? Will our patterns survive? Will our discoveries echo forward? Will the next universe feel the faint nudge of our choices embedded in its laws? Perhaps the constants of that universe will carry the imprint of what we did with ours. Perhaps its quantum fields will ripple with the residue of our awareness. Perhaps its stars will burn with the memory of our observations. Or perhaps its inhabitants, creatures of unimaginable form, will one day look into their night sky and feel a presence they cannot explain, a familiarity they cannot name, a longing they cannot trace, and they will wonder, as we do now, if their universe inherited something from the one before, if echoes of ancient minds still resonate in the deepest layers of their reality. Maybe they will ask the same questions we ask. Maybe they will sense the same mysteries we sense. Maybe they will feel the same cosmic déjà vu. And in that moment, we will exist again, not in body, but in influence, not in memory, but in structure, not in history, but in the architecture of a universe yet unborn. Everything passes forward, everything transforms, everything continues. This is the breath of eternity, not creation, not destruction, but transition. And so, as we have journeyed through this question, whether an older universe is leaking into ours, we discover that the answer is both larger and more intimate than expected. Yes, the old universe leaks. It leaks through radiation, through gravity, through quantum anomalies, through cosmic structure. It leaks through the laws that bind reality, through the constants that shape stars, through the geometry that guides galaxies. But most profoundly, it leaks through us. We are the intersection. We are the overlap. We are the continuation of a story that never begins and never ends. In every thought, in every dream, in every moment of wonder, when you look at the night sky and feel something stir inside you, something ancient, something vast, something familiar, that is the echo. That is the inheritance. That is the distant universe pressing through the walls of this one, whispering across time, I was here before you, and you will be here after me. Because universes do not leave behind ruins, they leave behind patterns, they leave behind laws, they leave behind consciousness. And through those continuities, eternity speaks. Perhaps the greatest mistake is believing we live in a young universe. We do not live in a beginning, we live in a continuation. And somewhere, in the silence beyond all silence, the next universe waits, ready to inherit the breath we will one day exhale. The story does not end with us. It continues because of us. And long after every star has died, long after space has stretched into cold emptiness, long after this universe whispers its last vibration, the memory of everything that has ever lived, dreamed, wondered, or existed will travel forward into the next awakening of reality. And that, perhaps, is the closest thing to immortality the cosmos has ever known.